Michael Eaves, who works for the mothership, tweeted this a little more than an hour ago. A person inside the Louisville Athletic Department tells me there's an expectation that Rick Pitino and likely the AD, Tom Jurich, will be fired today. Goes on to tweet, Pitino met with his staff this morning to discuss the ongoing scandal and what it will likely mean for the future. More information soon. So we're keeping an eye on that. Pat Forty from Yahoo Sports joined us from the parking lot of the Louisville campus outside the administration office, just waiting to see what happens next. Let's bring in Michael McCann, the legal expert at Sports Illustrated. Mike, thanks for joining us. Give us an idea of these charges, how serious the charges are, and why these coaches could be facing, and not only the coaches, 50, 75 years in prison.
Yeah, Dan, these are really serious felonies. Conspiracy, bribery, wire fraud, travel act. These are all federal felonies under criminal statutes that each of which carry many years in prison, and in some cases 20 years in prison for some of the charges. And if you add the charges together, you're getting numbers that approximate 100 years in prison. Now, that of course means everyone's convicted on all the charges, and the judge decides to impose the max, and the judge runs the sentences consecutively. Those are things that are not really going to happen. But the point is, this is a serious criminal case where the coaches and others are facing years in prison, and years plural in prison. And as you mentioned a moment ago, this puts them in a position where they have to play out the prisoner's dilemma. Do they want to cooperate early and cut a deal? Or do they want to hope that no one cuts a deal, and then it makes it harder for the government to prevail in a case? These are hard decisions for everyone involved. Universities could be exposed badly in terms of, and you mentioned this, there's subpoena power, there are search warrants, there's pretrial discovery. It's really a nightmarish situation for not only the defendants but their employers.
How did we get to this point? How did this all surface for the FBI to get involved?
Well, I think, Dan, we know this kind of stuff has been happening for years. This is nothing new. The idea that sneaker companies and apparel companies and coaches are funneling money to players to attend a particular college or to sign with a particular advisor when they enter the NBA. That's not a new story, but what makes it new is that the FBI a couple of years ago got wind of this going on and felt that it had enough of a sort of stake in looking into this, because these are colleges that accept federal money. It's interstate activity, so you have federal offenses. And once that happened, and we didn't know it was happening, it began in 2015, we weren't focused on that. We were focused on NCAA investigations. Really, those investigations are almost irrelevant after this case. Yeah. Right?
Will we ever hear the wiretap conversations here? Is there a Freedom of Information Act that, or will we able to hear that, or is that something that, if it only comes up in a court case in testimony?
So the Freedom of Information Act likely wouldn't work until the litigation is played out. And if it does go to trial, and I have a feeling we'll see plea deals long before a trial, but if it does go to trial, we would likely hear the recordings. But after the litigation is ended and after the appeals have been exhausted, then the Freedom of Information Act will likely be used, but that's going to be some time.
Michael, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dan.
That's Michael McCann, the legal expert at Sports Illustrated.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.